Hello everyone and welcome to round 8 of our AFL tips and predictions. Can't believe it's been 8 rounds already, Uncle. It's flying through, a third of the way through the season after this week. Yeah, welcome everybody. Hi Uncle, how are you?
Good, yeah, how are you going?
Yeah, we're good. We're getting through work. The new work life, adjusting to the new work life, and then all this afterwards. It's great. It's lovely. Touching on last week, our tips for the round, you got a lovely 8 out of 9, and I got a poor man 6 out of 9. Couple risky ones went your way, I think, and so that brings mine up to 41 and yours up to 42 for the total for the year. So taking a new lead, lovely new lead. We're both still alive with the gauntlet, thanks to Melbourne pulling through for us. It looked a little bit sketchy there. Half time it was fairly even, and Richmond kicking the last 4 or 5 goals was a little bit hesitant, but safe in the end. The differences between us, you obviously tipped Fremantle this week. I went with the Crom, which kicked themselves out of it, I think. We both got GWS wrong. Bulldogs really played a fantastic game. And then you had Carlton over Geelong, which is a very, very good call, I think. Starting from this week, I'm going to have like a ladder predictor of what I think the end of season ladder will look like. So come finals time, let's see how close I get to it. It'll run every week. It'll update based on ones I get wrong and such like that. But that is it for now. So we've got Collingwood. At the top, we'll play Bulldogs round the first week, possibly. There's a bit of percentage there between Bulldogs and Brisbane, who will get the second chance. Hawthorn I've got down at 8th, but tied on points, percentage between them and GWS, I think. I think they've got a lot of harder draw, I think. Adelaide's got a quite softer draw, which is why they're probably higher up, but still kind of out of touch of that top 4. But I've got Gold Coast and Geelong tied for 2nd and 3rd, which I think is a bit... I think that's probably interesting, but also probably right. I don't know. But we'll update that throughout the year as it goes on, as it's currently pissing down, so I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. But missing finals, I think the big one's Sydney. Missing finals. Fremantle just missing out as well. I think those... And Carlton. Carlton's hit some good form. On to this week's tips. We've got a lovely Thursday night clash of Essendon versus North Melbourne to start us off with. Great. I want to tip North Melbourne, but I'm going to tip Essendon. In my heart, I believe North Melbourne will do it, but I think my head's just pulling me more towards Essendon this week, Uncle.
Okay. Yeah, well, North Melbourne were pretty good last week. That's the only game I missed, really. I didn't really see that game, so apparently they were pretty good. I'm going to do some stats for you for the games. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm down. Gimme.
I've got something for each game.
Okay.
So Essendon have won the last 11 games they've played.
Against North Melbourne. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Unbeaten since 2016.
I think that probably checks out. I think North Melbourne have been pretty poor in that long stretch, for most of that period. So yeah,
Essendon haven't made finals in that period either.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
that is quite interesting. Who are you going to go with though? Are you going to stick with
for a fantasy? I've got some more. We
love it.
On a fantasy level, Merritt and Sheasel averaging 28 possessions in the last 5 games. Okay. Martin is averaging 24, so they could be something to look out for in your fantasy. I'm going for Essendon. In fact, they're going to be my gauntlet tip this round.
I struggled. I was on the train on the way here, or half an hour of it, going, who's going to be my gauntlet? I don't trust hardly anything for this game, for this round, sorry. Yeah, that's interesting. Gauntlet round early on. Essendon, bang, done. As we move on to Friday night, we've got St Kilda versus Fremantle, as we've discussed, Marvel Stadium. That is the one here in Melbourne, Uncle, not over there in Perth. Sorry. It's a bit hard. I think Fremantle played a very good game this week against the Crows. I thought their pressure and their ball use was fantastic. Doesn't matter what tackle Adelaide tried to lay, they always got the ball out and always seemed to land in the Fremantle players' hands. So they played an exceptional game. St Kilda were kind of in it for a bit against Brisbane, but in the end, Brisbane kind of just stormed away from them. I'm going to go with Fremantle just.
Yes, well, Fremantle are one of those teams, I think, at the moment, that if you think of a line at 100%, if they're at home, they're 120%. If they're away, they're at 80%. I think they're a far better team at home than they are away. Having said that, at Marvel Stadium, Fremantle have won 2 of the last 3 games against St Kilda at Marvel, so that probably stands them in good favour. They were pretty good last week. I find it really hard to trust Fremantle, but I'm going to tip them this week.
Yep.
But without a lot of confidence at all.
Yeah, for me, most games, it's easier to tell you the ones that I am confident with. This is definitely not one of them. I think it boggles my mind how St Kilda haven't been better. Like, I don't know, that you stand up and beat Geelong, but you can't really do it against most other clubs. It's a bit confusing to me. Saturday, we've got a great Saturday lineup, I think. We've got Bulldogs versus Port Adelaide, starting off at Ballarat Mars Stadium. My sneaky to win the premiership this year, as of last week, it's Bulldogs. I've been pretty high on them for most of this year, but I think with how they've been and also the people they're going to get back as well, they're still kind of depleted in terms of their talent on field. They can only get better, and I think that they will dominate Port Adelaide, I think, and so much I'm going to put my gauntlet on them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think interesting, because Port have won the last 3 games, so...
Yes, but, a stat of my own, Port Adelaide haven't won a fourth quarter yet this year.
Is that right?
Yes, I've double-checked it. They haven't won a fourth quarter. North Melbourne even beat them in the fourth quarter, so I think if that continues, Bulldogs will run home, especially at Mars. They're quite good at Mars too.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Bulldogs as well. Port have won their last 4 games against the Bulldogs, though. And Horn-Francis, for those fantasy players, Horn-Francis averages 2 goals a game against the Bulldogs too. So in the last 4 encounters, so he's one for your sneaky sports bet goes. But yeah, I'll stick with the Bulldogs.
Yep. Middle game, Adelaide versus Carlton. I think it's actually a lot tougher than what the odds are giving us at the moment. In fact, I've even chucked up $5 on Carlton winning because I think that they'll win. Had a look at the injury list for Adelaide this week. Nick Murray back on it for the next 4 to 6 weeks, so no key defender there for the Crows. Riley Thilthorpe will be playing though. He'll be on light contact duties for training, but he'll definitely be playing, so that's something. But yeah, no key defender to go up against Kerno and Mackay there, I think, is just going to be too much for the Crom even at home. So I will be tipping Carlton. Not a huge lot of faith because I know how good Adelaide are at home, but yeah, I'm going to go with Carlton.
All right. Since 2008, they've only played 7 games in Adelaide.
They've lost all of them. No, they've won.
No, Adelaide have won 6 of them.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, against Carlton.
Adelaide have got a very good home record against Carlton. They just don't do it very often.
No.
It's interesting that so that would mean they play only once a year most of the time.
Pretty much.
Yeah, most of the time in Melbourne. So.
Yep.
Adelaide, good home record there against Carlton. For the sports bettors, Walsh and Laird averaging 31 possessions in the last 5 games. Kerno and Walker averaging 3 goals each. So what you're saying about Kerno and Mackay is probably right. But maybe Walker offsets that. They got Wiedering, but what other... Is Fogarty back?
Well, there's no news on Fogarty, so that makes me believe that he is back, because last week it was, we'll test him, see how we go, but we might rest him, whereas this week they're just not talking about him. So I think that he's back and rare. I think the 3-headed dragon will be in full tack. And when you actually bring that up, yeah, they've got Wiedering, but Silvani's now injured, out for another couple of weeks with his hand. Zach Williams, even though not really a backline per se, he's kind of playing a bit forward, bit back. He's out too now with their hamstring. So, calf. But
could be a high scoring game.
Yeah, I think you actually bring up a really good point with that. But I'll stick with Carlton. I've already said it.
I'm going Adelaide. I think they'll win at home.
They have to. They have. Adelaide have to win every game at home if they're going to make finals this year. I think because their away record is pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
On to the night games. We've got one cracker and one dud. We've got the cracker first with Collingwood and Geelong at the MCG. I think this one could be a really good game. Collingwood, I think, will still win by... It's hard to say a cracker when I'm about to say it. I still think they'll win by 20 points or more. But I think it'll be that each quarter they'll win by 1 to 2 goals kind of thing, where it'll be kind of even, but Collingwood will have the edge. Yeah, Collingwood will have the edge every quarter, I think. But I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's probably the game of the round. Geelong have been okay. I thought Hawthorn should have beaten them, and they got beaten pretty well last week. So
yep.
Yeah, they need to turn their form around a little bit. I know they're 4th or 5th on the ladder, whatever it is, but I think the last couple of weeks have been just okay. Collingwood, though, red hot. They're the number 1 team at the moment. So the last time, this is some stats for you, the last time they didn't play at the MCG was 2005. So whenever these two teams play each other, it's always at the MCG.
Yeah.
And the away team has won on 17 of those times.
Out of 20 years?
Out of 24 times played, yeah.
24.
So I'm still going for Collingwood, though. And for the sports bettors amongst us, the Dacos double, both of averaging 30 possessions against Geelong. And Cameron averages nearly 4 goals against Collingwood in the last 4 games. So
well, yeah, you need a runner to go with Cameron, and I don't think Collingwood's really got that.
Got it. So,
I don't think they have it. So yeah. That's
look for Cameron to unleash.
Yeah,
but Collingwood for me.
Both the Dacos brothers with 30. Geelong aren't really those tagging team in Nimble. They don't have taggers, so yeah, that's interesting. Coinciding with that, at the same time, the dud of a game, West Coast versus Melbourne. Thank God Melbourne pulling through for our gauntlets. But West Coast don't know what they're doing with playing Oscar Allen as a key defender. I've heard that McWalter's kind of open to keeping that too, so could be seeing a lot more with Allen in the backline instead of playing as a forward. But Melbourne, I think, will just get the job done. I think they've kind of started to hit their straps a little bit. I think they gave Richmond 4 or 5 goals late there, but I think they'd stopped playing by then. They had a nice, comfortable 50-point lead. I think they've starting to really kick into gear, much like Carlton have.
Yeah, well, the last 12 times these teams have played, 10 of them have been in Perth. And it's 5 each, the record. So Melbourne have a fairly good record over here. I mean, that includes the years that West Coast won the flag. So Melbourne go all right over here. I'm expecting West Coast to just out of nowhere show up and have a good game. They always show glimpses of it, patches in 5 or 10 minutes in a game where they look exceptionally good. They haven't shown it this year yet, but I'm expecting it at some stage during the year.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if this was the sort of game where they show up and do well. But I'm going to pick Melbourne. Yep. I'm going to play it safe and pick Melbourne. But yeah, it actually wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles win. On a sports bet front, Kelly's averaging 30 possessions. I can't see him doing it. He's in poor form. But Fritsch for 3 goals might be an outside tip there.
Yeah, well, he's come back this past week and kicked a couple, so possibly with the struggling backline of West Coast, I could see that happening too. I was just thinking, watch my luck, it'd be Adelaide, the team that West Coast show up against. Take away the 4 points. Sunday games now. Battle of the Bridge to open us up at 1:10 over at the SCG. Both Sydney and GWS, I think, have been pretty poor. Underperforming, especially this past week. GWS looked really scrappy with the ball. Sydney were fantastic in the first quarter, particularly Heaney, but after kind of halfway through that second, once they reached 30 points up, they only managed 3 goals for the rest of the game, and that was late in the fourth quarter from Nick Blakey. So really poor effort, I think, from them, particularly after halfway through the first. So I'm going to go with GWS. I just think that their form has been better than Sydney, so just going to go with that, but not confident.
Yeah, Sydney put the hammock up, didn't they, at quarter time and just didn't turn up. GWS have been awful. They've been two of the worst games of the year so far, the last 2 weeks they've played in. So that seems... Yeah, I thought one game might have been an outlier. 2 in a row is a bit of a concern. So if they are awful again this week, that's just about their season done.
Yep.
For the Sydney won their last 4 games too. So and GWS has been very good the last couple of years. So was Sydney, of course, but yeah, Sydney won those, and Hayward averages over 2 goals per game against GWS in the last couple of games they've played. I'm going to go for Sydney to win this one.
Yep, at the SCG, that's quite fair. Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those 50-50 games, I think. And unfortunately, it's not one of those 50-50. I wonder who's going to win it. So I don't really... It's who's going to be worse on the day, I think, rather than who's better. 3:20, we've got Hawthorn versus Richmond. I think back-to-back walkover games for Hawthorn here. I think even though they did win by 50 this past weekend, they've robbed themselves of an 80-plus point victory. I think their kicking has been quite poor in front of goal the past few weeks. But I don't think that'll stop them from putting up probably another 40-50 point win over Richmond this weekend as well, though.
Yeah. 50 point win over the Eagles was good. I was hoping for more, and it's probably a bit the same this week. 50 point win will be good, but I'm hoping for more against Richmond. Yeah, I'll be sticking with Hawthorn. Of course, can't see any reason why you'd pick them Richmond against Hawthorn at the moment. Interestingly, the 25th game in a row at the MCG, but only 8 of them have been Hawthorn home games, including this one. So it's quite odd that they only play each other once or twice a year. Most of them are Richmond home games. Newcombe averaging 29 possessions, and Jaden Short 26 could be ones for your sports bet.
No, that's pretty good. Jaden Short, he's had a pretty decent year. He's been gathering up 20 plus possessions in every game so far, I think, this year. He's had a decent one. But to finish off the round, my game of the round, Uncle, is the Q Clash, the Brisbane versus Gold Coast up at the Gabba. Both teams have been pretty good to spectacular throughout most of the season, with both teams only losing 1 game so far this year. I think it'll be very tight. I think it'll be very good. I'm very, very torn between this game, actually, Uncle. I'm leaning towards Brisbane just for the home ground advantage. So I'll go with them, but again, not with real confidence. But this is one of the games where it's like, anyone can win.
Yeah, head-to-head, Brisbane are 20-7. And only 2 of those wins by the Gold Coast have been at the Gabba. So it's not a happy hunting ground for them since they've started 14 odd years ago. And Flanders and Neil averaging 30 possessions. Flanders has been horrible, so I'd take that one with a grain of salt. But Neil probably for another good game. They were talking today on the radio something that Neil might be a bit of a Brownlow smoky, which would be amazing for his 3rd Brownlow.
Yep.
He's having a good year. I'm going to stick with Brisbane as well at home. Still, I don't know why. I should trust Gold Coast more than I do, but I'm still going to stick with the experience of Brisbane.
I think it's just the history of Gold Coast, isn't it? There's been quite a few seasons where they've shot off out of the gates, but have ultimately missed finals every single year. So, and I would like to see them versing a genuine top 4 side, because looking at the list, they haven't. They haven't versed Collingwood. They haven't versed Hawthorn yet. They versed Adelaide,
but it was at the Gold Coast.
At the Gold Coast, barely won when a bad decision late at the end there could have helped them win.
That's right.
So I'd like to see them against genuine top 4 just to see where they're at too. That's why I'm mainly leaning towards Brisbane. But yeah, it should be a really good game to finish off the round.
Yeah, should be.
All right, well, there you have it, everybody. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. If you didn't, let us know why. But if you want to watch along live with us on Thursdays and Friday nights, I'll be doing the Adelaide and Carlton game this Saturday, and I want to be doing the Q Clash as well on Sunday. But yeah, feel free to join us right here on YouTube or over on Twitch. But apart from that, we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
See you later.